Can you change the unicorn?
Yeah, I'll also set that.
So I'll do it.
Do you remember the Wi-Fi password offhand?
It was green 02,
Green
but
02.
it never worked for me.
Yeah.
I just used the guess.
Yeah, me too.
I don't really need
It was 1013 and then the last name was after that.
Hey, are you starting now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still
What's the plan?
Actually, I'll just do it.
I resent it.
Or sent it with green highlighting, I think.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I still haven't gotten it.
Just let me know when you're good.
Okay, so I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Alright, all good? Cool. The advantages of NATO cyber attacks on NATO energy infrastructure is imminent and risk conflict. Nord Stream proves to bring coal year 22. Nord Stream demonstrates the vulnerability of your energy infrastructure based on heightened cyber attacks lead to doom mongering. Now is the time to prepare obvious target for Russia below the threshold of armed conflict. Our operation post boundaries was considered acceptable Ukraine. Power outages, malware cause physical destruction, cyber criminals, special report energy sector as a target to us. A series of proactive response to avoid disruption. NATO responses must focus on resilience. Energy suppliers must recover quickly. Otherwise, nuclear war, Clan 19 escalation, rising cascading cyber attacks against infrastructure. All powers on the run Korea deploy weapons attacks lead to escalating different against vital infrastructure, leading to kinetic catastrophes, nuclear conflict, nuclear Russian attack lead to nuclear war proxy, or a terrorist global crisis or causing false missile stages so accidents grow. Independently, the plan solves broader NATO cooperation. Boshi 20. Energy security developed in the mandate of NATO. Maintain overall cooperation, receive input in strategic area, inclusion energy helping NATO perform important functions during the discussion will not do justice. It spills over. Boshi 20. Energy is a driver in security developments. In fact, that is mentioned in the STRATCON does not mean it will be widely implemented. Just the first step. NATO frame energy security is a way to achieve broader goals linked to energy to cyber in an area in which you don't have a stronger mandate by Germany and France. Trying to talk about in cyber terms, framing energy security connected to cyber. Allies are convinced was linked with other concerns. They go wherever you want. Piracy, terrorism, cyber, WMD, maritime security. Otherwise, NATO fails. No small middle. 21. Hybrid threat take on a new dimension. Energy sector exploitable, even a short term. The denial of service could impact NATO forces. Must have devastating effects on mission assurance. Allies must develop deployable sources of window work could adversely impact NATO's political military functions, disrupting energy infrastructure driven through the evaluation of a hybrid warfare. NATO unique position consolidate allies offers only through unity can and probability to be achieved to attacks, return, and recover from devastating cyber attacks. NATO prevents nuclear war. Brands 19. The Kremlin might carry unlimited nuclear strikes to escalate to de-escalate. And the Russians are serious about NATO. Russia work to go nuclear limit to these bases of further escalation toward crossing nuclear threshold lead to a nuclear apocalyptic destruction. To pull back with the valor Article 5. This could undermine the alliance system has delivered stability. NATO would obviate nuclear escalation dynamics to escalate showing NATO must escalate to avoid defeat. One in war so Russia can escalate for early back to the best way to reduce the danger of nuclear war. NATO will lose a conventional war and extinction barrier at all. 17. U.S. Russia aftermath much worse nuclear winter and possible growth period for 5 years exchange. On this scale is only possible between the U.S. and Russia. Of 90% of the world's weapons, small regional war linked to the extinction. The risk of extinction of policy greater from the U.S. and Russia. And deterrence is key. Also on 22. Putin, you renting universe imperial extinction of collapsing Putin, sort of expansion of power core, intervening Central Asia, domains indicate nationalist imperialism. Wagner by Central Libya, defense sales, India and Egypt. Ukraine is the lesson for the rest. Russia needs success story. Nuclear threat knows conventional military is age, but NATO's has it to respond to nuclear threat for Ukraine. It is based on nationalist imperialism. And Russia is comparatively worse than the United States. That's Arnold 15. Contemporary Russia following the invasion of Crimea is extremely nationalist. Amnesty International data makes Russia the most violent country of ethnic and racial minorities. Far out to bring the exploitation of mankind and population side racist group type in Russia and form a social war. Napoleon's policy level of racist violence 1 year in Russia is higher than the entire decade in the U.S. It has to capture the qualitative difference with it. Reveals the systemic nature of Russia's violence, violent reject immigration, includes playing water to allies to good, preserve Nazi thinkers, consultation with the common, the idea of the great white race with European characteristics, Aryan ideas influence, national government policy as think tanks of housing, regional ideas of enriched effectively station from violent including in the U.S. including racialized police violence. Even so, post-Soviet Russia proved dramatically a rise of widespread police and the most extreme egregious ethnic profiling ever documented physical survey of the practice violent police extortion and infiltration international organization in the U.S. Britain and Germany began establishing practice of international racial convention. David D. Threshold is designed as the white world's future Kremlin quarantine where we power rights such as Le Pen and Joe Big plan. The United States federal government should substantially increase its security cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in the area of cybersecurity and energy cybersecurity. The plan is crucial to prevent the worst impacts. Really, 22. Ukraine offers energy security lessons in energy and the national security funding on Russia's liability in the cyber area. Architecting homes or indirect consulting move to energy new level. Even small terrorist group led by the hostile states will be able to use non-kinetic means cyber attack, offering no warning, no time for countermeasures, no after realizing that waiting is long and pushing renewables depend on industrial controls and distribution. All vulnerable cyber attacks security procure energy requires more than insurance bidding as a resilience have some deterrent of itself. It is the invisible stuff that matters. Allies need to share the experience finances, sharing helps mitigate threats, communities better connected, active, and private sector crucial to build trust through public private partnerships, create damage to critical, attempting to target warfare into these key values, united and learn how to meet threats, you can blunt the hybrid weapon, and cyber is key. If Timmy 20, the CBS is an oligarch target, and I do population both military and civilian are dependent on subsets, have pipeline could be repaired much faster, separating distinct sources to distribute to protect from the disruption of fuel supplies due to bad weather or crisis, targeted cyber attacks with catastrophic consequences, investment deployment in CAPS has also increased. Only NATO cells to be 20. Pipeline is time-consuming steps target during complex cyber attacks or permanent consumer by strengthening Russian cyber capabilities attack by Russia are regarded as armed aggression to severity, justifying invoking defense under UN Charter Article 5. Russia is not the only consumer steps and have caused massive serious damage with minimal effort. Military capability to be reinforced. NATO will need to take more proactive role to protection of the pipeline system and extinction outweighs. Number 15. Whatever more view the opposite very important to reduce the risk of being eliminated nuclear war consequential maximus the good of happiness or well-being as important to reduce as risk most important thing tendency to seem irrelevant non-consequentialist all ethical doctrines take consequences into account ontology and virtue ethics must be concerned with good from impartial point of view. This very strong risk reduce as risk and ontology 90% sure their view is correct. They have pretty strong reason even the 1% sure future matters as risk the most important thing and imagining future pathways to a conflict is essential to challenge a nuclear overconfidence and spills up to more responsible policy making. Pelopita 17. Awareness of the limits of nuclear control and nuclear opposites is crucial to the nuclear related control policy debate. Overconfidence and mission to be a cause of increased agent experience of the crisis on based on fear does not feel overconfidence and safety. Nuclear crisis, social tactical lack should take the lightness of luck with them to the grave. Further exploration of consumption of nuclear control would involve the question of how close we come to nuclear disaster starting point, focusing on the pathways towards disaster. Critical history nuclear cause we recover the control of solid adjustment problems as a result from misguided assumptions. As well as analysts start working with overconfidence of the way to reform this such as their responsibility to do so. Documenting nuclear danger is crucial for policy relevant learning and scenario analysis pedagogically valuable drama at all 16 yet enhancing communication is only one component of the generators substantive research programs are active policy relevant showing little scientific techniques for generating policy relevant ideas. Scenario analysis typically serving the purpose of corporate planners policy tool inherently limited use of analysis are juxtaposing courage as unexplained combination order articles supporting implausible features. Scenarios are not hypothesis based expert prediction should be equated simulation their prediction of possible future states or what several features make scenario analysis particularly for policy making the ability to make it to imagine alone and prepare to constitute units and control by their existing mental modes and massive exacerbated by groupthink and confirmation bias of power scenarios like ability to help individuals pick other conventional modes of thinking scenarios deliberately forward-looking and their strategy fails. Jarvis 2000 epistemological debates facts elitism displays the content for this and daily trickle what is ever stated those oppressed how does it help solve war does it speak to those who compromise policy no self theory support that problem solving theories bad is a problem that advocates and cope with solving realities and ability to confront is be helpful in what sense can debate towards a bit of epistemology and opposition to the state fails. Jabor 16 what tactics will secure a better world in America than never opposition against the state if you rally against many people with Bolsheviks your soul with a world of epic instruments and cluster bombs. This is 1950 Cuba attacks lose arts of the armed revolution into years and made missile all trying to look action seriously. None of us are going to take the bear because the area of NSA robots hardly hardship can do balance storm has upon conversation to undertake no political line. Wholesale rejection of the international order's campism that recreates Western bias and cultivates active support for autocratic regimes and dictators. This is Autocrat 21. Platinum of excessive Western imperialist force in the global south to change the U.S. is armed against Vietnam, the invasion of Cambodia, China's attack on Vietnam, and its war in Balkans. The Soviet regime were engaged in murderous actions against the Muslims, campus, and emerging logic. The many of the U.S. is in the logic is empty cynicism, focus exclusively on hatred of the U.S. to lead to knee-jerk opposition and critical support for such as Russia's imperialist government, Iran's well-swung and Saddam. Campus, remember that Al-Gaddafi's autocratic regime had outlawed Gaddafi ability to reply to protests. Gaddafi had just given the ambassadors president and also against the truth of likelihood of massacre was very hard policy. Population was employed for the road protection league. Arab system reported this request. UNC adopted the NFC to protect civilians. Anti-appeals condemned the UNC resolution. The absence of alternative means of protecting the democracy. The NFC could hardly be coopted. It took days for NATO to provide the Gaddafi required force to take Washington. Took a low province here and war. The results of the outside regime was monopoly in the air defense and barrel bombs to campus. Focus exclusively Western powers. The name of the said anti-imperialism while supporting or ignoring Russian imperialism. Alright, Sam's gonna stand up.
Sorry,
One extra card. Sam can send it with the time I have left in the one I see.
okay.
I just resent the one I see with it at the bottom. But it was sent.
Wait, sorry, did you?
It was resent, and the extra card was at the bottom of the one you see.
Okay, I think I got it. Is it the board?
No, it's something else. Not DeBoer.
It's the Achkar card.
Achkar.
I'll double check the one I sent. Make sure it's in there.
Okay, I just got it.
Yeah.
It is? Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wholesale thing. Oh yeah. Alright. You good?
Yep.
Okay, first, how does lack of energy security lead to nuclear war?
We read evidence that indicates cyber attacks and NATO energy infrastructure is likely to escalate. The clear evidence indicates this will result in tit-for-tat escalation, with the U.S. perceives that they're being attacked, which spurs them to attack other people, raising the risk of conflict.
So
Other
the
persons
U.S.
will never
perception of Russia potential attacks leads them to attack other people. Is that your argument?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a question of perception.
This evidence talks about how European energy infrastructure is uniquely vulnerable now because they're not protected sufficiently through cyber assets. We think their app is key to that.
Okay, I guess like what energy supplies does the app like sort of invest in? I think are good.
Yeah, the NATO SEPS pipeline is the one that we've isolated. It's the biggest It's the biggest pipeline in Europe that goes across the North Atlantic. Indicates it's owned by NATO. It can only be changed by NATO because it's part of their own department.
Okay, and then what's the word for why Russia would attack that pipeline specifically?
Yeah, I think it's the Collier evidence and the Bosky evidence, not the Bosky evidence, sorry, the Collier evidence and the Austin evidence below it indicate that two things. One, NATO, probably by like the Nord Stream pipeline, Russia is increasing cyber exercises. Second, they want to attack NATO because it's a question of like Ukraine supplies, which is all the big stuff.
Okay, sounds good. The Bosk evidence says NATO, like, it prevents NATO to pursue their energy security interests. What are those interests?
I don't think the app has said that NATO energy security interests are uniquely good. We've just said Russia attacking NATO's energy pipelines are bad.
Sound good. The news bomb evidence says hybrid threat is beginning to take on a new dimension. What is hybrid threat?
There is no current definition of hybrid threat. Hybrid threats can be cyber attacks. It can also be disinformation warfare. In the context of the Nussbaum evidence, is talking about cyber attacks.
But you will
Hybrid
defend
attacks.
it, like, sort of, the app is key to defending
Well,
against hybrid warfare.
we think we've solved cyber attacks. The evidence in the context of cyber attacks.
But your evidence is in the context of hybrid.
Hybrid threats does not have a definition. It can refer to a lot of things. Among those are cyber attacks. The Nussbaum evidence is in the context of cyber attacks, which is what we will defend as the app.
The Barrett evidence says it's very difficult to precisely estimate the probability of existential risks from nuclear war. Why is nuclear war good?
Yeah, the Barrett evidence then does comparative analysis and indicates the U.S. and Russia are the only ones that have large enough nuclear arsenals to result in nuclear war big enough to encompass the entire planet.
The rule evidence says allies and partners need to share their experiences regarding how new legislative tools they enact to counter hybrid actors. What are those experiences? What did they do in context of legislation?
Well, the app would result in like info sharing among different allies, so we can identify the vulnerabilities within the SEPS pipeline.
Says that military community needs to better be connected with academia, above all with the private sector. Why is military connection with academia good?
We've read evidence that indicates in the context of the app, military connections with private sectors is key to cybersecurity in the context of energy pipelines.
Just to clarify when the Tootsie blows this up, it's about public-private partnerships in the context of cybersecurity and NATO, not about like universities, academia, etc.
Because it allows us to prevent what?
Sorry, say that again?
The militarization of energy infrastructures is good. Why?
Wouldn't say it's militarization of energy security. A, inevitable. NATO already has protections. We just think it's insufficient. Second, we read evidence that it says it's key to prevent extinction.
Between military communities, academia, and the private sector.
That is the solvency for the app that you've identified. We think that's good because the app is good.
My word is flashing. Let me close something.
You said 3 off case.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm using this real quick. Y'all can start with something.
Also, we have misplaced a timer. If anyone sees one that has
Yeah, if
stickers
y'all
on
see a
it.
timer, let me know. I don't think you packed it up for me.
Maybe it's in the bag.
Definitely not.
He really just stays for 4 years. We'll give him 50 euros for free. He doesn't get to pay. Yeah, just move here. And then it's like great. So that's next. This year's like everyone's not debating now. I take this instead of debating, and I coach. I would really dedicate to doing that. So he's not here. He's very good. Rap.
Is everyone good? Hey, Tony said we can start with that one. Is everyone good? What? He did last time too. He always just goes to the bathroom.
Interpretation 1 is the 3 to method of course works against organic and academic intellectuals that justify the plans of community goal, but NATO absent. Any of these 1 is as a prevents access to the existing power money to make it careless as we read. Any of the future process can validate the country personal experience or intellectual, academic intellectuals without a process of the country. Based on particular perspectives, we really see the benefits of research that are aware of normative practices to minorities from policy discussion to get a lack of training such as exclusions for racism, classes, sex, homophobia, for being addressed use of personal experience, check against a marginalizing as purpose, most effective distance prevents of all rooted in community those affected violation of what he sees divorce from personal experience, organic academic intellectualism, but negative versus access normative knowledge making practices or even expert vernacular that cut out minority representation, which is reread in debate, benefits higher with by NATO absence of the pure process of they can demobilize politics or interpassivity, loss of psychological violence, second cognitive dissonance, or non-black debaters forced to acknowledge structural advantages and lead classroom cases and mobilize as accomplices of black debaters, but non-white students can remember how lived experiences shape knowledge in the space. Their model represents a view from nowhere that encourages passing privilege. Second, all slavery must be theorized as an active captivity to reduce a structural analysis capable of coming to terms with the world as sex and made the agency of the slave was reducing the guilt and able to affect the conditions of captivity, executive purpose and everything which agency hours are constructed and effective in things resisting categories which are discrepancy or between the slave and holders and about the dying these days. Most slavery as a system that reproduces slaves rather than holistically based difficult situations that enables elements for white violence agency is not itself versus the slave system providing the agency from the enslaved capture manipulation redeployment that focus on power. Slaves was displaced in organized violence and required captivity. Their cost for living calculations rates they lack fantasies that can never select the repetition and personal death infatuation with the contingency of material changes causing minimal investments of young and 16 anti-black cases that subject blacks to the interpretal dying and personal dying hyperactivity foreign absorbing the experiences of living under the Christ of criticization of adjusting our causes and conditions of impairment of living the deeper citation of event not only utilized the things of pressing readings but five decisions should be dramas through habits and persistent intergenerational harm in terms of repetition anti-blackness and use of time or topics and proven that subject murder and over becoming aware of the material forces that reduce the weight of sex formation they obstruct the taking relief sensation available for insertion of libido quantity anti-blackness sensitive dominant symbolic activity six agrees with breakable reports of chaos rhetoric such as Russian expansion and aggression plays into affective economy and warfare hybrid warfare allows for normative affective relations garner new legitimacy making escalation just inevitable but necessity under the model warfare that's Daniel 22 an ontological security rule level and NATO links uncertainty from hybrid nature of the new covenant relationship with the antagonist of Russia's aggression against the meaning to the anxiety inducing problems that NATO and their member states were facing erosion of international norms every time propagated information campaigns of the only sense that they link to Moscow the Russian hybrid warfare providing NATO and elusive security knowing one's entity and the stabilization of geopolitical imagination race and liberal democracy political structure resolve with geopolitical questions watching for all anti-blackness reduce the capacity for security infrastructure security cooperation with NATO and optical police power that extends psychological terror to conscious for reduction of violence and failure 21 making capacity of modern police power that works in the security infrastructure and data information and the desires and anxieties of the animate political imaginary structure security infrastructure is distributed force of all and capacity to life and share crime share competition for the psychic infrastructure that is supported by infrastructure Cold War nuclear armament and capability more than capabilities signals how the global circle imaginative teaching support the Cold War nuclear economy speaks accepts and allowing for the US to identify extended to the ecological terror something that making about the world through across the misrecognition and tech fairly neuropsychic realms of imagination desire and inspiration for excited subject of breeding integral to the infrastructure providing the preemption of the advent of emergent infrastructure to render the future of the space with limited expansion capitalization contribution to the criminality research subject to development of some security infrastructure and forward marching and space of progress march to operation infrastructure within a modern security project of police power the one is here as a performance through fiat maps and security logic maps and security logic so long relation to justify preemptive war logic and ever expansion of security this indicts the entire epistemic validity of the affirmative approach to state actor motivation that's Daniel in 22 we borrow the energy of geopolitics and how political events are articulated how the issues are geopoliticized geopolitical imagination of results of subjects that make the sense of the world sociopolitical values of the various forces of mapping that's such an affect the emotional affects of individual and social protection and the emotional affect becomes a side of geopolitical effects for international politics and spatial terms something affect the level of the central point of connection and geopolitical imagination the plan demands a durable fiat and a historical dream anti-ethics your paradigmatic imperative that's Korean 13 if you had any historical dream and teach before where it is what is actual equality of the more than conceptual interaction potential the warm where the race is transforming the anti-races but includes like supremacy the anti-ethical paradigmatic imperative to argue government justice no tribute races institutions moral qualities and to be demonstrated the answers for reactions to the norms and society industry appeals plan to allow the parts of control or actions that is not to be repressed and that the global application is competition with the possibility of acting to freedom and license not can be for a black world frame by the way we confront with race and their will the white supreme conceptualization intersectional property text and all the things that are virtuous that allow for black definite take you into the other anthropological ways of humanity to worship and present conceptualization the alt is a black reaction and educational one C key defending the dead is really when 16 what does it mean to defend the dead black reaction and grammatical with so in a new imagination new resurrected exterior way word black education reaction black reaction upon the care, life-giving aspiration against the cyber against the black. Subject feels the breaks for your black windows, super access, and the weak might be non-believable of the born. Third off, the ass deployment of technologies and methods of logic and capital exchanges and that makes their impact and nevertheless so iron. 21 wind solar carbon capture technology solar. No requirement for minerals, minor technology, minerals, seasonal objects, out of the wake of the environmental degradation. Instructions releases the contaminants in the air within the ground where quality of the solar companies are morally compromised the supply chain through the labor force of the weaker. The force for labor toxic waste of polluted groundwater, suppression of local communities, on moisture recycling, effective in camera from increases the landfill and the wind turbines of the lakes end up in landfills to more cartilage. Neoliberal capitalism will produce extinction that should be around and 15 global warming, environmental pollution, threatening one another, undermining life, and this about life, precarious capital accumulation, and progress by direct exploitation of distribution, and all that sorts of life systems and all the markets, these possibly work on the global scale. We live under reliance on environmental financial assault that led to breakdown in the first place, and guaranteed the renewal of the crisis down the road. These crises renewed through the war, invading creative infrastructure, capital, increasing surplus, erosion, and future on the only target. Sees in the future and the function of things in a possible the alternative from the model of the Communist Party that's Escalante. In 18, the base building dual power strategy for the party organizing left with the solidified revolutionary systems of dual power responsive by building institutions of union peoples who offer relief from capitalism and will the basis on work of building our Communist Party institution dual power refuse cover organizing instead of public face the Communist Party membership unified the party or a party like a different democratic sexual system making holy party members and combo power communities theorized communists organizing fight for liberation party organizing all for organizing the other council society how effective the capitalism usual forms of social opportunity education and economics and practice and unified national party with a long-term goal. Case no cyber attacks, no instead of safeguard, solve Ukraine freeze as well. 22, the Biden war, Russia, and the U.S. prepared to respond. There has been quiet and Russia and the number of smaller attacks. These have not even catastrophic attention where our one 2000 version of the war in the U.S. They invested in cyber attacks research of Russia, defensive and multiple attack prevent war with the U.S. and Moscow. And the 60 major powers are obviously NATO must be careful to join into Russia remains the defensive Moscow wants to work with powers not against the U.S. research and regional plans to project wars unlikely to escalate war has no alliance and no conflict of values. The world is a picture the number of important checks. The outcomes, the electrification of global South temptations become the energy machine that transforms labor to surplus value that necessitates a violent symbolic order of Western energy dominance as Kumar and 22 historical use of energy are reactive racial exploitation and slave black plantations of the first argue the energy infrastructure to the shift of land slave trade with the apparatus and the humanity of like plantations to cover the solar energy and the surplus value that could have existed without a violent order extraction of all the energy extraction of the facilitated energy facilitated technologies continue renewable energy solar industry the violation of potential facilities in the global south and depending on these members on the exploitation of people who color electrification of the advantage circulated that global history of electrification was in the west of the tradition of South America and energy provision that technologies for the electricity into a realm of target resources that is imagine and claim electricity is public of the saving guarantee of this is good no cyber war impact as well as 20 cyber capabilities are unlikely to be critical warfare the worst thing to feel are over going around assets from 2001 to 2014 shows the countries don't often use cyber attacks and low intensity ways that allow likely to cause escalation in these cases where cyber attacks today includes the escalation of those which countries already have the reason escalating cyber attacks are simply virtual cyber attacks are below the levels of no retaliation or no would be retaliation in the realm.
They didn't read that. Good for context.
Wait, hold on, we lost the timer.
We lost the timer. Wait. Let me know when you're good, Peter.
I'm good.
Alright, let's talk on the first off key. Do we have to meet all three personal experience, organic, and academic intellectuals?
Yes.
Okay, well, what does it mean for academic intellectualism?
Well, arguing is that it should be rooted in personal experience. Academic intellectualism should happen at the level of local orientations.
Personal experience. What does it mean to have a personal experience with NATO security cooperation?
What does NATO security cooperation means relative to the plan? You also agree that this could potentially be good because your argument is that we should connect the military community to academia. If your argument is...
I'm a little bit confused. What's the case list for the T violation?
But it would be, literally, your AF would be topical had it have some sort of...
Okay, so this AF would have been topical if I went to SEPS and built energy infrastructure. Is that right?
The argument is that if you would resolve that internally between the military community and the better connection with academia and concepts...
That seems like a question of solvency. Why is that a question of what the plan text is?
The procedural is a question of the desirability of the model of the affirmative.
What? Sorry.
It's an alternative.
Wait. So not about this AF specifically. What is a case list under your inter?
Every AF that beats organic intellectualism and personal experience.
Okay, so everybody has their own inter. The second off, the alternative, is it conditional?
Yes.
It is conditional? Okay, black redact redaction and an annotation on the 1AC. What does that look like?
We've posited an argument about the nature of anti-blackness being one of metaphysics and scholarship of epistemology. We think that the Murillo evidence is really good on describing why it is necessary to interrogate the grammars of the 1AC.
Wait, so is the alt purely just education in this round, like the scholarship the 1AC has produced?
No, we will obviously provide arguments about how these interrogations of scholarship and epistemology can spill out to other things as well.
Can spill out to what?
To other things as well.
What are other things as well?
The 2NC will list examples.
The 2NC will clarify. Okay, why did Russia invade Ukraine?
Why did Russia invade Ukraine? Because IR is defined by the relationship to power and domination. Argues that libidinal construction or threat defines one's relationship to each other. Yes, you are correct that Russia invades Ukraine, it's bad, etc.
Wait, that wasn't really responsive. Why did Russia invade Ukraine?
Our argument is that I responded to it with the first
You
one.
said something about IR. Why did Russia invade Ukraine?
Our argument is that anti-blackness and libidinal construction sorts threat.
Russia
and
invaded
desire.
Ukraine because they're anti-black. Is that right?
Anti-blackness is the subtext for the libidinal desire of power.
Okay. Fiat is always bad.
Sorry?
Beyond context of the affirmative application.
What is the distinction between fiat for the AF and fiat for the alt? You've also said the alt spills up to something. That seems like fiat.
No, it's not fiat, but rather we will provide internal link arguments about how the interrogation of those things is a good form of resistance for black folk, and will list
Well, that seems like an
examples.
imagination of black resistance. What is the distinction between that?
The particular state methodologies that you have.
Okay, anti-ethics, what does that mean for impact framing?
What does it mean for impact framing? That we should elevate anti-blackness above all else.
The impact on capitalism, what does that mean for anti-ethics?
What does it mean for
You've read an extinction impact on capitalism, what does that mean under anti-ethics?
What do you mean well, the argument is that even if you win extinction, good framing, etc., we have capitalism.
Okay, extinction. No problem.
No. Okay. Did anyone's Wi-Fi cut out? Okay, it's back. Wait. I think my Dropbox is just slow. That's the problem. Okay, it was sent. Hold on. There's like 2 documents. I'm not sure what's happening, so I'll take prep to figure it out. Oh, okay, got you. Stop prep.
Okay, that was 5 seconds, so 9:59. Sorry, 9:55. Jesus.
That's also
The order is the energy advantage, the procedural, the capitalism critique, the Has anyone not gotten it?
You need to change the highlighting on this for Antonio.
Oh, I sent the wrong one. Sorry, that was the difference between them.
Wait, what?
I had one that was highlighted green, and I sent out the wrong one.
No worries.
So I just reset it.
Thanks.
I got it. Let me just download it.
You're good, just let me know. Is anyone not good?
I'm not.
Okay, sorry.
I took this like 2 minutes ago.
That's Raleigh.
Fine.
Okay, order.
You're good? Cool.
Yeah.
Alex, can I use the real-time menu trade?
Yep.
NATO is good. Energy attacks divide the lines to make effective response impossible. The planetary security which collateralizes cohesion solves collapse. 2 impacts versus cyber attacks causing changing with a tip for escalation. Nord Stream, Ukraine, but the risk is high. 2 is Russia. The 1 and C does not contest the revisions make for electricity inevitable war. Escalates without NATO because of no cause war fighting. 1 and C 1. Yes, cyber attacks. The risk is rising against for Nord Stream, but the US is behind. Small attacks escalate to a tip for escalation to the below. Let's clear 1 and C 2. Yes, the revisionists. I'll do this on the game. Military interventions for vessel 22. Russia entering military PMCs. The Wagner to Libya and Africa. Obtain military intervention. The Iraq war in Syria. ECSTO direct interest. Defense sales of China and India. 1 and 3. No shift renewables. Dematerialization of the K definitely solves this, but the after increased energy is inevitable. Just prevents attacks on those infrastructure in the status quo. 1 and C4 cyber war cost exchange, seemingly low cost escalation, support tip for escalation, which blurs lines for nuclear conventional nuclear warning. Systems are intermingled, which catalyzes risk and misconduct. That's clear. The only one attached to is the opposite definitely solves through defense. T. 1, their inter cannot solve. No way to verify that we have an embodied relationship with our adversaries. There's no way to know someone meets the standard for body politics, or we meet. 2, multiple dissents. 8, violent enforcement is disclosed and morally seek their personal identities and competitive activity. Vertigo 17. Epistemological consideration with identity qualifies or disqualifies one from authority. Consideration mistake of domains of belonging to a person with a certain identity, patronized offensive expertise of the members of racial and ethnic minorities will foster focus scholarship on race identity. B, they misread this argument. Only reason being disembodied for reps is violent instead of the house of structural violence. Political scientists and experts know our scenarios are true regardless, not them been affected by the F or not. 3, their interprets arbitrary. How do you determine if someone has adequately embodied their politics? 4, defensive epistemology is reify oppression. Tower 20. When people say listen to most affected, it often means how conversational authority call for difference without as a default political orientation. Kind of marginalized groups that leads to a system every outside influence access is the self-social advantage. The who ends up in the room shape our world more than comparative prestige reference campaigns that direct attention away from the system. The prevent centering the most marginalized focus on the rooms occupy rather than actually we don't experience representing conflict such failures and the right topic of coercive effects, especially when a community storms back these behaviors provide cover for the application responsibility. High percentage character deference may suit the short-term psychological wins, but at the same cost can undermine efforts and goals that motivate people for freedom by them privilege focus on specific goals rather than avoiding complicity or adhering moral principles in terms of pedestals or symbols. 5, framework of the K acts as a counter, the cap K. 1, permeability, fiat, the alt, over complete or false inevitably. 2, no alt, A can't solve the after NATO and security cooperation. B, international movement, fiat as a voter, debating goals for the alt incentive mechanisms to make the possible the app. No, beautiful ground argument. Utopian action, next fairness and clash. C, Pixar voting issue makes the negative moving targets as they run to the obscure and on the alternative and steal the app. So we never can generate offense, X fairness and clash. 3, extinction outweighs its most subjective under any ethical framework. That's number 4. No, link, their evidence is not in this context of NATO or proves it's inevitable the alternative cannot overcome or permutation both definitely solves it overcomes the app. 5, no impact, A, market solve, other 22. Marketers want to carry super system for innovations. We do more with dematerialization as economies are being used for your resources of the U.S. You use less gold, steel, aluminum, copper, all but 6 to 72% use less fertilizer, water substitution to generate private market capitalism, driving demand efficiency gains, and tax for decarbonization emission peaking in 2005. Continue declining even without policy market. We deploy low carbon tech that could facilitate emission reduction. B, alt camp, alt hill 20. Best chance of solving hydrogen problems in this market. Solar and wind price are up by 90%, 90 China. Carbon by 2060. Carbon capture and CO2 safety solar utilize the nuclear ramped up north of 12 some Mars in the UK. Oil, Denmark to CCS, and Austrian pre-fall 6. Capital space calls spring 16. Where will we turn for space capital is important for corporation. The government cannot in a reasonable time for you to get to eventually massive playing government influence or come multiple disputes about hinder economic growth solving. How do we get there in our problems out here? 7, conditionality is bad at voting issue. First is argument innovations, life of research generic. Second is strategy that only go for the least cover throw. Third is clash no reasons for research. If they can be kicked counter dispelled, they can kick it permutations of theory, reject the team. Okay. 1, framework with high level implementation of the 1AC versus 2 consequences and effects. It's the only particular point of C. Reactive fairness and clash. It's moot statement in the 1AC. Research 3, the 1AC clash is good. Attitude skills are the only unique impact from debate. Those skills divorce from content are beneficial no matter what debaters do and they lead the activity. Obscuring policy in favor justification is bad. U.S. imperialists and support of autocratic regimes in Syria and Russia because they're seen as anti-U.S. and 7, it's an external framework it is set and turns their offense as Achar. 2, extinction outweighs. The ethical framework would degrade the mass suffering from nuclear war outweighs. That was above turn clear impact on 18. Nuclear check disproportionately affect black people. Populous cities, most sizable black population. For black genocide America always works towards black eradication through inequality. The war would be swift, totals for tribal limited healthcare, eradicate radiation sickness. Black people deserve space even if we have competing threats. 3, primitive building expectations leads to status quo. Either primitive solves the all fails. 4, progress is possible. A, loving v. Virginia, legalize interracial marriage. B, fair housing act, ban redlining against realty, discrimination based on race. C, Obama presidency proves engagement in the political issues by black activists. D, fair sentencing act, reduce racially charged narcotics scenes. 6, 5, no structuralism. 8, epistemic uncertainty. Air applicant structural frames that can never be proven. B, it's ahistorical. Scientist 22. 4, Afro-pessimism, a statement can never be transcended. Social death, metaphysical state. 2, NATO, nature record examples of slavery, but demonstrating agency and slave litigation, litigants use the courts to keep families together. How do we extend this to creolize Aphrodite's work cultures throughout the hemisphere and slave resistance, social death, reinvented themselves new economic social death. Perhaps the goal of slaveholding castles that never accomplished the Afro-pessimism, North humanity exercise and save the past. Endeavors of black people who struggle through battle, war, foolhardy blackness becomes a separate vector of oppression. C, non-falsifiable, Hooters 15. Racism is not an integral part of human psyche. It is a social content to comprehend racism by reference system to priority structure is doomed to failure. The collective unconscious refers to inherited patterns, and denies permanent features of the line there, universal, that confuses habit with instinct. Distillation will be achieving things in the material sense resume their rightful place. D, it's flattening. Scientist 22. Afro-pessimism to essentializes black identity, exceptionalizing suffering by grouping all blacks together as slaves from baristas and president billionaires and landlords, ruiner, anti-racist social policies, null and void, makes white supremacy unsolvable, render solidarity amongst blacks and others impossible, Latin definition of peace by rights and hopes to remain, silent mark sexism, homophobia, facing black women increase because anti-blackness is believed to be uniquely sourced racism, faced by a single black woman different from black identity, the deal of universe and deflect attention from brokering with existing elites. 6, no partnership link. A, not us. 1, no description of suffering or intimate violence. Proves they link wars because they've set the threshold so low. B, no impact, no causal link toward increased material harm toward black people from this debate. C, erupts and good justifies discussion over existential rights. Teach denuclearization utilization of self war with Peloponnes, abandoning relational empathy fails. Rango 17. That blackness is to be understood that afterlife of slavery is held by Afro-pessimism while this ends up BL and founded by women to vindicate Afro-optimism was then forms the gender capacity of black social life. When you study that black people can be actually raise the question, can blackness be loved? Solidarity, grievance are goals of BL and blackness, balancing fantasies of equality from the midst of an ongoing genocide network of living care. The BLM seeks to counteract 660 intellect violence and trigger the claiming survival. The experience of the fleshly source of empathy reinforces the fleshly civilians' words might be lost. Mark at lost. 7, no Russia link. A, Russia's aggressive. Wagner, I did this all above. Cross-applied. It's an answer to it's true. Then could a link his way are much better. B, hybrid threats are real. The evidence about uncertainty, but Nord Stream, second, etc. For the risk of cyber energy is true and real. I did this all in case. Cross-applied. C, however bad the U.S. says Russia is worse. It's most violent country for racial minorities. Since history of racist and nationalist group violence and when you see within a decade in the U.S. Police violence, profiling, white supremacy in the Kremlin, etc. all prove that the alternative is much worse. That's Arnold. 8, no security infrastructure link. A, it's not about the app. It's not specific to energy. And as the links is status quo with NATO existing, they have to prove they collapse all of NATO or the app has an impact on the truths we access it. B, the alternative cannot solve it. They do not defend material action as per when I see cross-sector. There's no way to resolve material structures of repression. 9, liberalism is good. A, cross by the overview. NATO is key to resolve extinction. B, it explains by info. Verse 20. By this figure television that I can bear challenges will require reinvented liberal international climate pandemic and global proliferation can only be solved through these established and these challenges the international system beyond our now such as they cannot be undone. More prosperity could develop the nation than working class where inequality and danger to population action manage. Openness protect for environmental labor standards to shore up democracy. C, foreign policy strategies are inherently driven toward intervention or are alternative wars arguments are accurate. 18. Well defined objective score that foreign policy community has not spent their time working with Pentagon State Department. If he did, we would revise his view practitioners or see the merit to doing so. They don't get more mission because foreign policy is their career. They make foreign policy their career because they believe we can accomplish everything. Their world is wrong. The views are immutable. The debate of 2018 not the debate of 2002. Liberal and national have been reflecting the relationship between foreign and domestic policy. The alternative would have been worse. It's never fun argument towards torture and debate. It's sometimes just the right answer. Consistent. Consider post-war Germany and Japan by withdrawing these forces. Regions look far darker. The developing here to bloodthirsty foreign policy community dragging more passive for those terrorism as an urgent priority. Foreign policy communities increasingly responding to demand rather than driving it. The Daniel evidence. 10, the Daniel evidence. 8, affect fails. Feel good. It creates voting negative creates into feel good politics, which I just think they've done the good deed for the day. Trades off with alternative solvency. That's the Jarvis evidence. B, demands on the states of good. That's the rare empirics proven by crackdown on most institutions to any action that does not engage the political and is doomed to failure. 11, being 11, the Curry evidence being anti-ethical is circular logic and collapses in on self. The only reason to be anti-ethical is to act more ethically, but they've said being ethical is bad or truth is incoherent. Anti-blackness is not cultural ethics. Act 17. Claiming ethics requires racialized others is where race is a fundamental category that overrides how we regard others. If racism embedded in ontology, why not reserve the circularity through careful analysis that recognizes that without seeing it purify racial ontology? Philosophers of race resist morally bad aspects of race and are discursingly ethicists could cultivate awareness of how they're more specifically sued. Non-whites claims that ethics is impossible without racial others already considered not qualified to be ethical subjects. We have little support for this sweeping assertion. Mark at assertion cross-apply the stuff from T. Now the alternative, A can't solve the app rejects same deficit from the cap. K, B ballot solves a single ballot can't resolve an A-party structure nor resolve interpersonal violence. Only model that debate encourages critical thinking on both sides. X is a larger internal lane. C, annotation the one I see fails. Figures 17. Wake work does not mean black suffering through historical solutions, focusing so acutely on unpacking racism that primary passive resistance, giving you a positive frame of black studies do, no make our preoccupation with the black struggle, make us complicit in diminishing the fullness of black humanity, proclivity towards confrontation may be pronounced, but is that enough? I'm compelled to call to build. We risk neglecting how resistance requires and relied on theorizing around the gaze of direct action. The aim is not to abandon the battle, simply recognize that it is insufficient.
The Rango evidence, I'm confused on why you think it's like a safe good claim. It's talking about like Afro-optimism in the context of like different movements. I'm just confused.
Yeah, two things. The Leung evidence and the onency has been explained and probably will be explained as a reason hope and empathy towards suffering is probably bad. The Rango evidence is an impact on that. It says it's probably a good idea to it creates communities of care and compassion within people.
Wait, but why does it say that like hope in the context of the state is good? Where do you think the card says that?
The BLM movement at the very bottom, it talks about is looking towards state action, which is probably a warrant for why it's good. Secondly, we think it also says that giving up hope, etc., whatever the 2 and C alt explanation might turn into, is probably a bad idea for the same revision of political progress. We also think all the cards I read above that on like the ontology and structuralism stuff probably answer this and says that sweeping claims that like hope is bad and porn stripping is bad probably links back to itself because of the 3 reasons I said. I can re-explain them if you want.
No, I'm good.
Cool.
The framework stuff, what are the consequences of the plan?
The affirmatives impacts or whatever the one and C.
Why can't we get links to the affirmative impacts, i.e. reps links to extinction?
Yeah, you just need to explain how they implicate the plan. We think our intro probably allows reps links. We just get to weigh the against them.
Okay, so we do get reps links.
If they impact the plan.
Cool.
For example, representations, how the plan is implemented, through thinking, etc.
You said Clash is good for things like advocacy skills. Is Clash a question of like fairness within this round, like being able to equitably engage, or is it a question of external impacts outside of the round?
Debate can make us better arguers, persuaders, reachers, no matter what politics we advocate for, but those skills are only possible through a series of debates over the course of a year that teaches predictable research, skills, etc. Your model probably advocates that.
That engagement has sufficiently
like access skills?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say that again?
How do we know like when we have sufficiently engaged to access skills?
I'm confused. We think Clash is a sliding scale, i.e. more Clash is always better. We've indicated that a season's debate's worth of debates with high in-depth Clash.
What's the bright line for accessing those skills that you think are good?
Right, we think more Clash is better than less Clash. For example, an intern that probably devolves policy planning, that it probably obscures the 1AC, probably makes it really unpredictable. It's impossible to gain or garner offense from.
Why can't Clash over things like reps links produce those skills?
I still can't hear you.
Let me rephrase my question. Why can't like Clash over things like reps links produce those skills?
It's unpredictable. The internal link is predictability. We think the 1AC and weighing the AF is something that's predictable that both teams walking through.
What determines like the predictability?
I'm sorry, I still cannot hear you.
What determines like the predictability of like a link? If the bright line's predictability for engagement?
Right. Two things. One, we think the plan is obviously most predictable. That's set by the resolution. Any non-resolutional like argument is obviously not predictable for both sides.
You just said we can get reps links
if they influence the plan. For example, a representation link that's impact is like the plan implementation fails because of X, Y, Z reasons. Those are reasons why you get their link because it affects plan implementation.
Okay, I want to go on to the alt. What do you think is like? What do you think is like an ethic of care for black folk? What do you think this card is describing?
Are you talking the bigger staff evidence?
Yeah.
It indicates that annotation does not go far enough. It has to go. You have to do more than that to create the care that is evidence in the context.
What does it mean to do more and create care? Like what is that next step to create care?
I don't know. The bigger staff evidence just says that the alternative is not enough, which is what we have to win to win the debate.
So all we have to do is like prove it.
I think I am. I literally cannot hear.
I'm setting up the right. It should be set.
I could hear him. Yeah. I got it. What's the order?
Sorry?
What's the order?
Just a K.
I'm assuming.
Pass. As always, framework will be in the 1 and R. Did everyone get the cards? Alright. Is anyone not good? Okay, yeah. Slavery should be theorized as maximum captivity. There's 3 reasons. One is to impose no counter expenditure 500 plus years on NATO, the use of NATO nation that suffer kitchen cultural tribes, which choose policy on utility general design to reduce the African subjects with black commodity and steer agency within the same master world. 2 is almost the same masters. Even if consistency is true, we should elevate against ontological and white classification of masters. We'll separate upon our responsibility to make clear the tears that cause we're not as bad as sexual fertility struggle, which is bad. Multiple 3 living economy, human relations, states, nation, fixed to twin locks, affiliate, employment, the pre-constant reinforced. That's the best metric. Age retrieves response to young utility that she go 11 politicians. That's why we're going to be economic, the black, even social conflict, some political economy, our part of the political economy, the black, the Latin, US, and 2 million, despite African the US financial system, the black, the trust, political economy, concept, and house matter. First, back against the institution, and the black, the black, the guys, the commission, welfare the black institution, with the left is able to give us the these years to do for additional left example, not just isolated against injuries, beast, physiological, nutrition, but it produces anti-black reactions, making phobias. The factor not to share this over 14 blackness, frightening people, of course, because there's a lot of fun, nothing greater for releasing existing illegal racism, side of institutions, Jim Crow, eliminate away from the continued biology, because of the reaction, not the conscious decisions. While biology is not to consider what's firmly the way we are great to manifest the body, have releasing shaft from people's black level, taking serotonin levels of the NS, you guys are trying to more production to studies. White women studies is through black and physiological white person, the time to watch recent which is not without preservatives, such as safety and SIBO negative representation. The local economy is less subject to non-falsifiability. Obviously, meet their falsifiability framework. This is always the outcomes for captivity, produce infinite killability, black flesh, mutilation, brutality, and organized capacity, sensation, and private violence, or manipulative cross-induced trauma. All preempt 3 framework arguments. A's magnitude should be evaluated through on social systems. Relationship to blackness defines a relation to the world, and our magnitude against blackness will be in the one on our base time frame. Ontology means generational harm is ever more present, more likely, increasing time frame for rollback of human rights, cease irreversibility, fluid anti-blackness, ontological is also irreversible. Absent the injection of our scholarship, the Hughes evidence, there's 2 answers. 1 uses non-verifiable, only solely uses technical metrics like neurobiological resources informed by the scientific method, while their refusal even refers to archetype as assertion at best. 2, we subsume the warranty of little economies based on habits acquired from social cultural impositions. 500 years of slavery has cemented psychological associations. The planet is insufficient to quote the
resume their rightful place in materials, place because the afterlife slavery continues in the form of mass incarceration, disparity sentences, which is all that Chico evidence now. Progress possible. I answer their examples at the top before I get into the cars. The Loving versus Virginia offense is a reason to vote negative because it assumes that progress is when black people are able to marry white people, which assumes that there's a progress between interracial marriages. That assumes that white people are being able to marry white people is a net good, which is obviously a violent interpretation of progress versus progress from things back in historical. That's Zelman 18 every moment often for the possible response to be math every active the progress is only offensive and then defensive conflict only to use the power from American rights against the decision trap this whether the progress will be given because alleviates white Americans for Chinese science have ways for the reason of mass potential for the just the project that will help promote the individuals of the markets and all these two their constituent progress lies in analysis against reversal then society which makes the forest of the trees doesn't prove slaves have a relation not with the world that's supposed to why after civil rights events experience and slave do you imagine if things society first in the middle class was also in the west of knowledge and human personality and humanized some and the slave generally is on over the bridge of the linking these right now separation and also now we pursue against reversal struggle not unless in the law explains how to slave the world and the criticization of president saying black people never been easy or hopeless is blatantly wrong this lens and listen 16 white people so don't have the same check and the be against the best right now after the original against freedom of the people after here we say kind of say so on the list routine on the world of the black and and I work for the side of the love and analyze tensions between those of the white girls have like this and we have to say of course we're going to the face of all those consequences lastly roll back when the progress possible is reversible we win the model based against black force guy acts in the world which charge case with individuals involved in the framework of sentence violence Sanchez no ontology is prerequisite of understanding you need the system pathology that occur yes difference pathology is good but it's only allowed to be analyzed under our interpretation now the Thompson evidence one your scenario is U.S. Russian war that doesn't have the interpretation of Thompson evidence two it only proves ontologies if there's disparities in violence that occurs as a result of the nuclear war can only be explained by the violence that occurs in the Africa and three it's irrelevant if your model is bad it's the historical stuff I already answered the spike evidence the multiple races one is real analogy impact trend the argument that other races should be aligned within its blackness is ignores particular laws that occurs to blackness two it's irrelevant if anti-blackness is going to analytic to the negative now the link to make one is the racial will be the link to control the internal links and miscalc the ontological obsession with security is rhythm the other proven by their colonial evidence isolating Russia's aggressive operations having you routinely pushed by the boundaries of what considered acceptable behavior in cyberspace this orientation to Russia is written in an optic of fear which their own Kolobinus evidence the one he says bad because we need to quote an experience in official memory of the crisis that is not based on fear the subtext to Russian threats the middle fascination with potential risk and anxiety written into that paradigm that justifies offensive realistic tendencies in IR the Daniel evidence in the 1A is fantastic the propaganda and geopolitical imagination around potential hybrid warfare producing anxiety that makes certainty inevitable which internally links the impact is guess what extinction even if they're correct on framework and extinction outweighs its blackness means our libidinal fear trumps our political reasoning which also means that they can't accept the realism arguments even if cyber conflicts is likely and real and the solves it the anxiety around threats is inevitable which causes isolation and suspicion about potential future conflicts justifies offensive strikes escalation extinction is flag this is a Lincoln's presumption argument that if they drop the BD rule from the date now these will be the arguments that the app goes for against the link one is that the app's not about hybrid warfare because their clash good arguments are obviously in bad faith and also wrong the first their news evidence says quote we need to focus on energy security in the era of hybrid warfare their ruling evidence says quote hybrid warfare and disinformation campaigns have moved the threats to energy infrastructure to a new level their if-to-me evidence says Russia needs a power as a way of acting that is defined today as hybrid warfare if this doesn't constitute a link to the plan I don't know what does but also them conceding the 3T process that we get linked to the epistemologies as if it affects the consequences of the plan is obviously probably a bad interpretation for them because it proves that if we win the libidinal economy and some risk of libidinal fear trumping our ability to produce actual ethical policies and internal turning the app then obviously we fit their definition of capacity to Russia's wars their own clear evidence that Russia has infiltrated the U.S. electrical grid and it is widely believed that the United States has done the same in Russia which obviously proves that violence is reciprocal now and the second is the Kumar evidence that energy infrastructure and extraction through bodily forms of facilitating the defense infrastructure becomes a vehicle for the violent symbolic order where the plantation machine becomes a mechanism by which energy is turned into surplus value the process of protection and cyber infrastructural development and desire for modernity manifesting things like control and production of energy and the protection of the pipeline becomes a representation of oppression and colonization which causes the electrification of the global south through unified attempts to produce technological legitimacy around the securitization of European energy powers which guarantees the West the provision of energy worldwide pushes the pushes of energy to private realm that manifests in production facilities industrialized scale energy infrastructure which we think is bad the private realm has always been a process of its blackness to translating landscape cheap things to the mattering of black life nationally which supercharge our offense on reproductive violence which is the alternative is black reduction and station solves and what I see solves the last black tradition chance value their coherence or angrammatic application to open up new spaces for revolutionary imagination and modes of writing that creates an ability to defend blackness and defend black people and communities of care which is obviously a material has a material implication proven academic spaces like LBS or Sada's daughters the limit test for almost obviously is just at the level of a blackened model the Rango evidence says quote the network and love of care that black lives matter also seeks to establish a way to counteract state sanctioned anti-black violence that care is a process that we would advocate for the bigger stuff evidence they have and backwards. Social death and social life are mutually exclusive. Social death just means a lack of political ontology. Social life is a form of black resistance within civil society. This only proves the all is viable because of black resistance of symptoms and impressions. The next question is whether or not it's resolved within the master's institutions now extinction. 1, framework means you don't get to what your impacts. 2 is mathematical nihilism. They evaluating extinction instead of all sets and all life matter logic that enables intellect destruction. That's 419. All lives matter as a positive fire operating guys. There's some intellect on the back of the mobilized warfare. Within the intellectual methods, new language of the organized Congress, 48 form of back packets, influence violence, race like very blackness, destruction of the point cannot redeem the promise of battery quickly. On the permutation reduction is incompatible with when they see the first of the assimilation is that they force blacks to be incorporated with their political paradigm, which is obviously black. Second is they sever the reps and justifications when I see, which they say we should be able to link to in context of the permutation debate. 3 is if we win our theory of liberal economy, trumping the political analysis and making it ultimately into black. Obviously, they look at permutation. Lastly is the psychic numbing stuff. The community's fascination with creative magnitude unifies that culture that creates attaching on the uniform subjects to sensitize broader issues to repetition, turns case boxing, and response to their reps, material confidence for the community. The card will be ready to learn.
Are you good for cross-sex?
Yeah.
What does the alternative do materially?
Whose action is a generative process argument is that the alternative elevates an analysis of the middle economy, which can minimize the potential for.
So does the alternative just happen in this debate, or like what does voting negative do for the alternatives of litigation?
The argument would be that the alternative happens in this debate, but this debate can be key for larger sort of structural confrontation.
How does this debate split up to solve like structural confrontation?
Well, the argument would be that debate is an discursive activity, and that this debate can be a reflection of the particular libidinal, unconscious decision-making process and conscious developments of subjectivities that the AF produces. The argument would be that rejection allows you to
okay, that makes sense to me. Is progress possible? Yes or no?
Is progress possible? Yes or no? This is not a yes or no question. Progress can be possible, but it's reversible as well.
So if progress is possible,
why progress is possible only in context of black resistance.
Okay, in the context of black resistance, I'm confused how 3 judges voting negative resolves any of this like structural stuff. If you just said it's a question of black resistance, that resolves progress.
Again, on framework in the 1R as to why.
Great, it's a question of framework, which would be in the 1R. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's talk about the global south, like that link. Why does the AF result in that?
Well, the argument is that protection of energy infrastructures allows for European systems to overdetermine the way technology develop, where Western order becomes the.
That evidence is in the context of like building new energy systems, like going to the global south and mining for them. Why does the AF increase that?
Protection is the internal link towards building new things. If things are protected, then inevitably those sort of critical infrastructures, the development of cyber can be used as a framework for protecting.
Where does this evidence say that? Because it seems to just indicate that mining is bad, which sure, but I'm just confused why protecting cybersecurity and infrastructure leads to that.
If we win our thesis of the libidinal economy, it should frame the portion.
Okay, so this link relies on ontology.
It relies on the libidinal economy.
Cool. Let's talk about the libidinal economy. Why is it true?
Well, I mean, I've read a piece of evidence that says it's based in science.
What science?
The Sullivan evidence isolates Stern study that.
What studies does Sullivan isolate?
The Stern study.
What is the Stern study?
Like it goes through a litany of examples of how like white women's stomachs seize up into a black blend, that their serotonin levels increase, there's gastric tachycardia.
So can contingent examples be a reason the structure is true?
No, the argument is that scientifically that Sullivan proves our arguments.
Yeah, I know that you've isolated Sullivan, who's taken a group of random people and then been like, "Are you racist?" Why is that? Why is the reason the structure is true?
Sullivan has isolated how even if you're correct that we should look at contingency and we should evaluate science, that scientifically our methodology.
Wait, okay, I'm confused in this distinction right now.
This is not an argument about contingency, but rather like larger structural issues, which is also tied to the Chico.
Why does this random sampling prove that structure exists?
Well, this random sampling in context, in tandem with the Chico evidence, obviously proves this exists because like.
Let's talk about the Chico evidence. Why is gratuitous violence a reason ontology is true?
Why is gratuitous violence? Because the argument is that intergenerational harm.
Okay, so it's the that makes sense.
On PES, are you starting where Antonio left off and then going to the framework?
Reading up his card, then
Okay, gotcha.
it'll download the card.
Sorry, I think my Wi-Fi just went out. What?
Do you have a hotspot? Does that
Yeah.
help?
I think Arjun got me sick.
Oh, it's good.
Did everyone get the doc? Okay,
Give me
Wait.
1 second. My I can prove it. Google Workspace is working through right now. I'm gonna connect to a hotspot.
It's called Sam Phone.
No, it doesn't like it. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Alright, so we're gonna start in 5 seconds with
Cap not going for it, neither ultra fear to the northern nor pace over to storm minor space bonus and bonus make a ball. Even if they do the distinct conference with the 2 still applies condo, black condo is good, key people, they need revolution, education, vehicle, racial cars, with second distance, making peers, conditions, best testing is portable practice, back strategy, scan, issue, conditional, vibration, nations, but real world proven by Allocated, Malcolm X, the black flex is good when we redefine the most ethical position in the tune are always reaching courses, reflexivity, impact to statisticity, any other model regulates black into a static form, resistance, which moves the breath of black radical tradition, WCU voice as black double consciousness, the survival strategy, the last of self-reflexivity, which can check against all the agencies, testing of like behavior, certification, different worldviews, and conditional false versus smart, negative, just had blanks in the case, and calculus, which require permutations, second, links to our offense, black behavior, gets second, political or social projects, which locks away after formation, psychic violence, makes any CVs, your target, or to get your interpret literally after the debate, not against non-black teams, the
finishing up the card.
York in 93, the community's participation in perpetuating the death culture, making arguments that particular detached destination we want to use the charges for the community to the event of this celebration. Detachment discussion open that reinforce the detached viewpoint. Language, or rather, as a real material consequence, it is more to examine the discourse of the language as we use the information and feel that we ask the world language that does violence, we may not be able to change the world in our own community frame. The role of judge developed by and the ethics of the by the illusion of white virtue constitutes a critical interrogation of the underlying assumption of justification of one is investigate the impacts that we want to think about the one you see as anti-black and we win that counter information evaluate the one you see as a hermeneutic first and then curry that scenario analysis produces black hole objects for the purpose of accumulation and cause benefit calculation that creates cathartic appearance for white saviors to be exploited for violence for black lives for violence which makes flesh fungible and authorized to misfind black responsibility second repetition compulsion their model of debated doctrine black makes independence of the whiteness and anxiously black males that act with full knowledge that engage the sex and Robert 17 non-neutrally psychopolitical activists and we no longer enable them to know active with relevant decision rather than force to experience the story whiteness and culture that the past participation which we are activity makes nothing of the change to the first step is refuse to participate which includes stronger activity in general but as the frenetic aggressively passive activism moves the ancient adaptation nothing will happen feeds with the desperate advantage something you would do more as you try to mythology this other myopic focus on the use of Jesus voting for all political discourse facilitating mythology through this state that destroys any possibility for black political resistance as wanted. Some people also can persist in the way to common durability, non-truth, the sensible, possessive investment in epistemological working relies on state addictions, deflection of mythology that renders and suffers investment on state sensibility, intelligence, property, state centric analytics, commits active to the decision of the notion of the state extended becoming a fiction of we review rather than imagining a future in terms of information and justice, actively independent state of means of expression and engagement, part for engagement. Fourth is top level, bringing each of the link level to AC crossing, conceive, you get reps links to the consequence of the plan, these all we have to do is when why links are a reason why reading one is good, reading is good. Good captivity is that reading one is good and holds them accountable for any black models of the overall consequences of the land and axiological captivity that reinforces microaggressions felt here that includes based benefits means that black people inevitably face violence to their representations with no ability to punish them. There's forms of violence scholarship, yes, such information free warrants trends that debate over time from early happiness and monarchy proves that your balance unique capacity to shape his faith because academic rigor or forms of causes rates more formative and requires more psychic and literal investment than school has done it. Card out after balance incentivizing liberation research has reading briefly innate the balance mostly good visual and influence requires the nature of debate guarantees that teams remain responsive to the community that with a diversity outside of the discussion of non-generating from competition and agreements holding up made accountable for failure forcing teams to consider whether traditional ways of engaging the result of the over hostile difference. Acceptable straight turn their index and curry the cards about how anti-ethics their cards are about how anti-ethics prioritize black people over others. Anti-ethics is an oppositional ethical paradigm that doesn't require an alternative framework for ethics rather than their understanding of a neutral ethics presumes that violence should be weighed on equal playing fields. Instead, anti-ethics raises the burden for how you should evaluate impacts. It means you should artificially inflate impact range of actions and therefore have an obligation to prioritize black life fairness first. Their model's logic no logic of enforcement produces satisfaction with black suffering and enable the false equivalency of whiteness is fair. It creates anti-black political practices as Orange 21 when citizens seek a forms of punishment that go beyond the force of needs to satisfaction and gain from others, suffering whiteness and normalized cruelty. By drawing the false equivalency between whiteness and fairness, which make it unequal. They have application of laws inside what permits the beneficiaries of whiteness. See racial domination practice for human whiteness, produce an economy of feeling of racial community delight. Form civic satisfaction of return to whiteness, the physical experience of the public. Happiness is tyranny. The second is unfairness for non-black players this morning. 11 students on arrest for structural force for security every shift with continues for others backward. Backgrounds and experience on fairness, create opportunity for perspective to better fairness systems. The word is the experience of the players over unfair game creates an organization are teaching them a class person. They have no background for class and don't let them away with negative explanation of classes of science skill when they haven't included minimum bar practicing exchange of skills for instead of values like their framework. The system of the affordable skills specifically for minority participants. 18 got radical politics teaches long education difference like guidance and assistance to the other questions. The race minority perspective weapon includes work success and framework excludes the demonstrated contribution of people outside of human racial critique of the forms of disability. Cannot trust the friends and to the right. The concept of rather than policies that more pragmatic and taking them to the institutions of the state is unfair to every
narrow window of political science. I'm going to send out that information, the DSRD card,
I already sent it.
and I think I forgot to send out that board card. I'm sending it right now.
I think everyone should have got the DSRD card. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Did you send it in a separate email?
What?
You sent it in a separate email?
He just forgot to put it in, so.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that.
You didn't send this in email.
It was just completely different. It's fine.
Really?
Is there a second change?
Wait, I didn't put anyone's email in though, so like I don't understand how.
I mean, it got to all of us.
Yeah.
I
just thought it was funny.
I sent the card. I didn't send that.
Yeah, you're good. That's just the Reed Binkley stuff, right?
Sorry?
It's just Reed
No,
Binkley.
I sent the
He sent
he's got a card.
You have another one?
Fairness that I accidentally forgot to send.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
9:55.
Wait, you didn't read Clark, right? You had or instead.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. What?
Yeah.
There's one card, sample symbol. Wait, sorry, we're gonna check that.
Yeah, you don't.
Later?
I'll send it.
2 seconds more, so 4:46. I already sent it.
Oh, you're saving the phone. Oh, you just have it.
Send email.
This is.
Okay. I'm gonna try to do this order as clean as I can. The order is the advantage. And then I'm gonna do framework first. And then the K. Yeah, the K will mostly be straight down. I'm pretty sure.
The cards were sent. Sorry, my Chrome just crashed at the beginning.
You good?
Yeah. There you go.
You sent them, you said?
Yeah, Sam sent them, he says.
There should be 3 cards in the file.
Oh, sorry, I just thought because it said don't read.
Which one?
That says don't read.
I'm good.
So read, yes.
Wait, am I read? We can take part of this. Am I read?
No.
Okay, don't read. One more second of prep.
Was it just the veil evidence or what? Like,
Yeah, that's just inserted, but I'm not going to read it because it's an insertion of Sullivan evidence.
Just below my
There's a second card like below it though. It's not
Yeah,
just
you saw the
bottom
third card. It's not just fail. Yeah, okay. We're all good? NATO is good apps. Energy security prevents collapse of devastating cyber attacks. High school nuclear NATO collapse triggers devastating Russian aggression, war, inevitable extinction. It's a prerequisite to approving the security link. Okay. Framework, weight the plan versus consequences. A's clash plan focus builds skills for predictable offense at turns. There's individual debates have little weight and effective subjectivities with a long-term process of debating. Does second fairness. Decentering debates restarts debate in the one C kills predictable grounds. Competition structures debate speech times. Speaker points at the fact that they read multiple offers that all that matters is preserving the game. At worst, it's internally turned to their impact that solves their offense. To get reps to influence plan implementation, which limits generic links and forces research. We just get to weigh the app. A reject anti-ethics. A reps are tied to the plan. The only objective way to determine whether the app is a good idea is based on the consequences of the plan, which is influenced by ideology to some degree, but it shouldn't be the sort of consideration. Second like use the plan, which is above. Subject information is bad. A, no way to know what it means to be an ethical subject. Second, all calls to use times will and other media effect are subject information. 4 more. School is still academically rigorous, which disproves debate being key. Third, individual rounds do not shape subjectivities if they did. Constant flip-flopping would cause moral chaos. No repetition. Compulsion. A, winning our interp is irredeemably anti-black is a prereq to winning this card. Starts from the assumption that interp is flawed. Second, relies on structuralism, which which I'll answer later. The third argument was quad. A, the app is a criticism of the state. Second, not state addiction. Imagining fiat does not require you to depend on the state, i.e. the state app is the reason why the state is not sufficient in the status quo. Third, links to their interp as well. Fiat is inevitable because they've also imagined the alt does things. Fourth, limited imagination is good. That's key to clash. Otherwise, going for infinite things, which is bad. We can imagine world peace, and we're going to war, etc., which are obviously all bad instances of clash. No, they don't get reps. Yes, they get reps links, but they need to win that influences app implementation, which they don't, which I'll do later on the line by line. Second, we still get to weigh the app against whatever link they think we have, which means they don't solve it. No captivity. Decide a clash solves is key to self-reflexivity, enables the people to switch sides on different issues. Second, their interp results in more polarization because it's more radically unfair, which means teams are more likely to have draw ideological lines and stand by them. Ballots don't shape anything. Reject rebrinkley. A, will impact trend investment in the ballot. It's bad. A, psychological violence debaters make a determination of worth based on winners and losses. Second, empirically disproven K teams on all the time, but that has not shaped the way the resolution has been read. Third, individual base don't shape norms. That was the work I did above. Nobody monitors individual rounds, which means it does not spill up. The stuff at the bottom about fairness. The first argument about the or evidence rejected. It's not in the context of debate. Assume citizenship and laws, which is not the same as the game they've agreed to join by showing up to debate. Reject the warrant evidence. Says structural fairness is important. Procedural fairness comes first. No one else will play a game they're guaranteed to lose 50% of the time. Yes, clash is an impact. It's a sliding scale. I impacted that while I was good above. Reject the Traber evidence. A, links harder to them. It's about fiating radical politics, which they've also done. Second, no quals. Reject evidence written about debate. Always written in competitive incentives mind. Third, has functionally no warrants. It's proven as bad. It's not. Assert why. Conceded the Taiwo evidence from T means they cannot go for unfairness, good, or anti-ethics. Deference politics creates a sense of complacency that otherwise the minorities and make liberation impossible. Traits their impacts, like K proper. No presumption ballot. Durable fiat prevents rollback. Any other interp devolves debate into would not should, which is worse for clash because congressional gridlock means that every app loses the presumption. The structuralism debate framing issue. They've defended ontology that assumes political progress and possible arbiter as the one single example. So I'm going for a Fair Housing Act. They conceded they only answered 11 v. Virginia, banned redlining and real estate discrimination based on race. They're right that there are several barriers to reducing violence overall, but it's resolved the longest is legal recognition and creates a momentum to our larger resistance. Now ontology is wrong. A is flattening, sweeping accounts space over experience of black. Race says presidents, millionaires, and landlords. No one theory can explain every experience as a burden for it to be true. That's the on-test. Second, it's a historical African U.S. war community exists, limit of litigants using the courts, etc. proves that agency exists, even if the goal of the slaveholder was social death. Reject natal alienation. A, Sanchez and Dice cross-apply from above. Second, tech proves that it's not a structuring condition. No gratuitous violence. A, it's a symptom, not approved. Second, it's not unique to blackness. People kicking their dogs, guys beating their wife, child abuse, queer overkill, trans violence, etc. proves it's not unique. Now, liberal economy misidentifies causality. Racist social systems influence the psyche, not the other way around. Habitual racism can be psychological, but that doesn't mean it's predetermined or impossible to correct. That's the Hootist evidence. It is also viable. Cites studies that indicates that racism is not constructed by social conditions, but they link far harder because there's no way to whether or not progress is impossible when they've indicted all progress generally. Now, the extinction debate. Extinction has to outweigh a irreversible precludes future improvement. Second, it's objective. Any other metric devolves into genocide, but all ethical frameworks conclude extinction is an a priori. That turns their impacts. Countries are not targeting white rural communities. They're targeting mostly black urban centers and ensures disproportionate suffering through nuclear war and famine for those on the periphery. That's the Thompson evidence. Yes, we obviously access it. Conceded case, conceded Russia or results in extinction evidence as about nuclear war generally. Extinction is not unique to war black people. Things can definitely get worse. Extinction runs to the margins. The impact is not just war and everyone dies, but the process of war itself is painful and affects minorities the most. No macronutrients that our evidence indicates a specific interlink to cause extinction. We shouldn't be responsible for every single extinction claim in the world, but it's also not all lives matter logic. Every single link has to have an impact, which is a question of consequentialism, which is acts of consequences, which is good. Now, the link debate. They don't get the securitization link. A, they have to disprove the app as a necessary prerequisite. We found that Russia is definitely aggressive, which was why in the 1AC. The third, Russia is a revisionist. That's also unproven by extension in Syria, Central Asia, invasion, Ukraine, Chechnya, Georgia, etc., which disproves the link. Independently, they can see that Russia is worse, which is a reason. The app is good. Extent Arnold cites quantitative and qualitative studies that Russia is the worst place in the world to non-white and gay people. Go the no energy securitization link. No death case securitization of cyber is good insofar as it solves nuclear war. Discussing nuclear fragility creates incentives for denuclearization. As we realize how close to the edge we are, it's a reason securitization good. As Pelopidas that also answers the bureaucrat at the bottom because it's a reason securitization is inherently good. No energy security link. We obviously do not increase energy security. Conceded that it was inevitable. The alternative has no way to resolve it because it's not material implementation. It's just a question of scholarship, which I answered on framework.
Okay. Frameworks at the top, obviously.
Experience I have with degree in
No, not good.
The role of judge prioritizes the ethics, sophistication, facts, and purpose, the one to justification, interact, and one way to the act performance makes it a categorical imperative of negative because it proves that they have a site, their model has a beta psychic methods, gets them back to their personal death. I'm going for the pathology to decide. The quant evidence is excellent describing how their interpretation is based on dangerous epistemological ordering of space that produce a hierarchy of knowledge, categories based on relevancy, productivity, and value, all of which are determined by pathological and racialized interpretation of knowledge, which is a product of statization. This is not a critique of fiat, but the knowledge production that the limited imagination produces, and the archives of scholarship available under such model. The universalized interpretation view state action is the only medium through which advocacy can occur, which prevents the revolutionary strategy formation that we have said is good. Humanist politics reference, and first of all, you can see power back to the state, which reduces pathology through its amendment reciprocity for black presence, rendering all racial scholarship irrelevant unless placed within the hubris of liberal governments and the consequentialism of the white sea, which makes ethical confrontation impossible because advanced inclusivity to preserve white comfortability and ab ground. Pathology decide controls all their offenses. We don't have to win any of their arguments are bad in vacuum, just to risk that deploying fairness as argumentative regulation against black critical debaters in this round is violent, but minimize the risk calculus necessary for an app ballot because it proves that the archive available under fairness is obviously in fact even if fairness is valuable, the concept of developing resource and the way constitution is enacted is bad. Now the ballots the anti-ethics proper 1 year and 0 awards against anti-ethics. You can see the impact framework, and they can't come back and concede specific 1 hour judge instruction. You should artificially inflate impact related to anti-blackness due to the gratuitous nature of anti-black violence, which outweighs extinction. You have to prioritize black life even if it means risking extinction because the anti-ethics begs the question of what neutral ethical paradigms they produce and should be evaluated in the first place. As far as one of those paradigms are neutral, the ballot proper 1 hour job CSRB refers to the only potential piece of evidence that analyzes community trends over time from early hybrid testing. And if you're also Louisville, even if they're announced better, we have a card in it that obviously always united the crowns all prove that ballots do have the ability to influence the data, answers their case stuff. Obviously, the research trends answers their case stuff. The wrong model competition just repeats the record that the competition is the reason why our model is better. As far as only our model can create general discussion is not solely focused on competition. Two, even if they're right, there are other ways subjectivity is effective. Two, debate can have a marginal effect on subjectivity because it raises standards for scholarship or representatives round to not about 3 hours we use competitive studies if they force them to find why the ethical engagement with the case to solve better. Four, this means even if they win the consequences of the plan are good, if you win the ballot has more generative potential for the negative, you should vote negative. This is independent next almost argument has mitigated a 2 hour push on you don't solve your impacts as far as we win the voting down can change their orientations towards anti-blackness. Now the libidinal economy proper framing issue. I only have answers to ontology from the 1 hour, which doesn't matter because we're going for the libidinal economy. The two are distinct. Our argument is not that progress is impossible, but that libidinal desires makes it reversible. Their ontology answers don't apply even if they when it's wrong. If you win libidinal economy shapes a U.S. orientation to expand as a D rule for the link debate, which I'll do later. But first, the 3 words: A, science, best physiological studies, the gastric neurological system, not what people prove its disposition, increase nausea, and increase serotonin levels with the confront of the black. That's Dolvin. They didn't read any of the cards in the 1 hour, so don't let them get asked to the offense B's, which was response even if the right is contingent, and it's not unique to blackness. It happens. The political economy can explain violence beyond utilities, toxic black land, for disproportionate police response, which are all examples from the Chico evidence. Even if the libidinal economy is artificial, it's a good conscious attack why there's a difference between blowback. C, and lastly, they dropped this argument in the 1 hour. There's no coming back and absolving slave masters. Even if contingency framing is true, it's a bad model debate because it absolves the master of racial terror by suggesting things weren't so bad and black people could rebound. Refusing contingency is a better tool and model debate that mobilizes collectives to hold civil society accountable, which means even if they're correct that limited imagination, the process of research and creating political strategies is good. Only our framework that elevates the libidinal economy can mitigate its impacts on the actual structure of the debate. Now, the 2NC Zamalin subsumes all their answers. Their defensive progress is rooted in representational economy of fantastical whiteness and features diplomatic platform or contestation that presupposes legislation as a signifier of progress, which is currently disproven given the history, say circumvention. Even if progress is materially possible, it should be technologically abandoned because it's justification for local complacency. Now, the link debate, even if they win for the framework debate, the 1 hour cannot recover from the link terms case analysis. Our argument is not securitization bad, but anxiety tethered to the representation of extinction and potential threat makes escalatory violence inevitable, particularly in contrast with hybrid warfare with Russia. Read Daniel's phenomenal. Even if they win anti-blackness is ontological, NATO's orientation of cybersecurity is really libidinal fear of the other, proven by their Korea evidence, isolating Russia's aggressive operation, having routinely pushed the boundaries of what's considered acceptable behavior in cyberspace. This orientation in Russia is an object of that is subtext by libidinal fascination, potential risk. They drop 2 key implications. One is propaganda, scenario playing, and geopolitical imagination around potential hybrid warfare produce anxiety that makes uncertainty inevitable. This means it doesn't matter whether or not they're right about whether or not their risks exist or are true or verifiably true or they solve them. It's a question about the anxiety that is inherent within the 1AC political paradigm and the consequence of libidinal fear and the way it trumps the rational realism. The impact is extinction. They drop the even if they're correct on favorite and extinction outweighs anti-blackness. It means that the libidinal fear of the act trumps our political reasoning. Even if cyber conflict is likely, the anxiety around threat becomes inevitable under the model debate that they propose, which should only be solved by our model debate that shifts orientation to international international relations by elevating the middle economy's analysis that mitigates its potential to construct the fear in a bad way. They dropped the answer to Russia. Where's their own clear evidence? Russia says Russia has infiltrated the U.S. electrical grid, and it's believed that the U.S. has done the same in Russia, which obviously proves that they can't get offensive wrong. Russia bad or Russia worse. The extinction debate is obviously irrelevant. Our link turns the act. If we're correct about the nature of fear being inevitable, obviously you should evaluate this. Now, the last thing they're going to probably be able to do is that the hybrid warfare stuff doesn't exist. I read 3 cards on the 2NC back to you from the 1NC that obviously proves it's not true. Now, the last thing that they can probably cross-apply is the apps, the K of the state, is the apps of the K of the state. No, this is obviously relevant. It doesn't apply to the link debate. If we want to link towards case analysis, should obviously, should obviously win the debate, given that they have conceded the representational links are obviously viable, but they haven't answered the content or the thesis of the link debate, given that they dropped the middle economy properly.
Okay, it's 4:45 left.
I get this. Oh, I just have it. How many? And there's no way it wasn't getting tab text. I was like, oh, mom, this round.
Okay. It's the advantage in the cave. It's gonna be pretty much straight down. I'll be really cool right here.
Wait, can you give me what's the one second?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm ready.
Is anyone not ready? There is no chance you can vote negative for the Tunar. Flat out drops the Hooters piece of evidence in the Tunar. 2NC cross-text was explicit. Every piece of Tunar offense relies on a structural claim that they are just technically behind on Tunar. Warrants for why a libidinal connexes are circular, i.e. gratuitous violence cannot be both a symptom and a cause of structure of anti-blackness. Any risk when contingent escalation scenarios are possible means you vote A, because lack of a structural condition means A. We definitely went framework because that is what their offense is based on, and B, our offense definitely outweighs since there's no terminal impact to the cave that only the ballot can solve. Link turns case is irrelevant if they're wrong about the thesis of liberal economy, which I'll do below. The F proper.
Russia war outweighs the conceded Russia's revisions that makes it inevitable. Only NATO can deter future aggression, otherwise causes nuclear escalation. The app is key, ensures NATO's cohesive or destroy, which is a prerequisite. That means the link cannot turn case the question of NATO cohesion, which they cannot access as per 1NC cross-checks. Both teams agree execution outweigh. That means it's only a question of our offense if we solve it comes first versus objective. Any other interim calc is a slippery slope that quickly devolves into genocide. Seconds, irreversible extinction forecloses any opportunities for resistance. They have not answered this impact from the argument the Tunar, other than saying the Axis is better. They cannot. We are winning Russia's aggressive, which is a reason they cannot solve because they rejected crucial political action. I'll do that on the all B. Ian, we lose the thesis claim. It turns their impact. Thompson says it hurt those in the periphery wars because black and brown people don't have the resources to survive the immediate effects of nuclear winter. Okay. At the top on framework, oops, the Tunar conceded clash. That means we're winning a large risk in accesses and turns their dissent, which is going to make it really hard for them to win. Their model is better. Their interrupts is terrible. First, reps are tied to the plan. The only objective way to determine whether or not the app is a good idea based on the consequences of the plan. Obviously, that's influenced by ideology to some degree, but ideology should not be the sole consideration to it. You link, you lose thing. Back to the 1A explanation. Their interrupt develops into a negative to win without contesting the truth of case, which ensures it develops to 1% link framing. If the impact is classically unique and external impact from debate can make us better arguers, researchers, persuaders, etc. Regardless of what politics we advocate for, we need the activity. But those advocates, those benefits require predictability to access nuance and arguments. It's like controlling internally to every impact, so it turns every framework decided which relies on cultivating better education. Even if it may have some impact on individual subjectivities, this regard is insufficient to solve the belief. Now, the pathology dissent conceded two things. A, the app is a criticism of the state. Imagine the app's policies and the app's political products does not require you to depend on the state. If anything, the app is a state negative because we've indicated whether the state is deficient. B, it dropped. Limiting imagination is good. It's key to clash. Imagining of infinite things is bad, or the negative is justified to infinite private actor fiat. Skirts all clash because they can utopianly fiat world peace, and there's no comparative lit base that the app can resolve the deficits from. Also, just straight up false. In negative, alternatives can obviously operate outside the state, proven by this round. Now, this dissent is disproven by the app. Winning case means you've won. The app is a good idea, which disproves state actions are always being bad or non-revolutionary. The or and alt classes overwhelm. You can get education from other sources like classes or school, which proves clash is unique. Now, the anti-ethics claim, they have conceded Tyro from the T argument, which means they cannot go for unfairness good or this anti-ethics argument that we should reverse impact calculus. Deference, politics, trade, a sense of complacency that otherwise as minorities makes liberation impossible. It turns every turn on impact. There's no answer to this. It was in the 2AC, but they've also conceded the ballot cannot be a question of this debate because it's only a question of models. This debate does not spill up. A, switch side, team go for head good, one round, head to the next. Don't read a plan, they go for T, etc. If they're right, debate would have devolved in moral case. B, alt causes, school, family, the media, etc. all influence us way more than a 2-hour debate round. It means only clash is much larger internally to solve. The impacts of a season's worth of debate is much larger effect on individual subjectivities due to the required research that requires. Now, the libidinal economy, it's all answered by the Hoodis evidence. It misidentifies its causality. Racist social systems influence the psyche, not the other way around. Habitual racism can be psychological, but that does not mean it's predetermined or impossible to correct. That's the Hoodis evidence. We did not drop Sullivan. Alex applied Hoodis instead of the Indite, which is just as good. Sullivan is not a way out for them. Falsifiability is the idea that something can be disproven, not that there is a psychological study that proves it. The Hoodis evidence answers the libidinal drive and indicates that the results of Sullivan's study are not proof that an anti-black drive exists, but instead the results of continued social structures that are malleable. That was all Alex's 1AR work about why it's not applicable. Now, the Chico evidence is just gratuitous violence. Alex also answered this. Drop the 1AR Indites. A, it's not unique. People kicking their dog, trans, overkill, etc. Prove it's not a reason a structure can be true. B, it's circular. They can't say both it's a symptom and a cause. Proves that they link back to all the symptomology stuff I did on the exchange of waste debate. The link debate proper. It does not matter if we have one that the middle drive does not exist because that's the terminal impact to the link. I cannot turn case of that drive for anxiety does not exist and has been disproven. We have impact turn the thesis of the link. It's not anxiety if we're right. They have conceded Russia is aggressive, which means any action we take to preemptively prevent those from escalating is a good idea. They said propaganda leads to anxiety. This is not a reason to get out of the case. They have conceded Russia is aggressive, proven by military operations, Libya, the Wagner Group, etc. All of the 1AR wars proves that the recent containment is good. Deterrence is key is necessary, and we impact our anxiety. Russia is worse than the impact. It's the Arnold evidence against the most racist state in the world. People like increased police violence, increased surveillance, and shutdown all prove that it's much worse. Means any risk that the app solves is a good idea. That the link does not turn it. Now, link cannot turn the app. They have conceded the Peloponnesus evidence. It's game over for securitization stuff. Securitization is good insofar as it solves nuclear war. Discussing nuclear fragility creates incentive for denuclearization as we realize how close to the edge we are. As the reason securitization is good, that's Peloponnesus answers the only insurance case argument, which is about anxiety being bad, because it's a question of what the good anxiety can do for stopping nuclear war, which is conceded impact frame. 20 seconds.
Oh, the fairness violation stuff solved by us not going for fairness.
The fairness violation stuff solved by us not going for fairness. Any argument-based reject the team arguments are solved by just rejecting the argument. There is no risk of the middle commune controlling impact. They concede the Hoodis Indite. It's game over. They can't access any other offense that's external. So you have to just straight up outways. Good debate.
Good debate.
Good debate.
The Hoodis evidence is in the 2AC.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry.
Oh my god.
David.
Why would you do that?
I'm so sorry, David. Oh my god. David, are you coming? Are you leaving?
Did you hear? Yeah. I heard like for a second. I was like, okay, let's go down there. These are rules that we just seconds.
I thought that was really good too. I'm not hungry. I had to leave.
So give me 20 minutes.
You what?
What?
Oh, Papa.
Do you want anything?
Can I get a BLT?
Text me. Or Slack me.
Okay.
It's right across the street. I'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's the best thing I can do for you right now.
I really need a pee. But I really need a pee.
Wait, do that.
I know. I wanted to go to get on to walk.
I'm so sorry.
I was like, see, please let me pee. And you're like, no. And then you're like, no, it's right this way. And I was like, okay. Dude, I get so much feedback.
The card doc is sent.
I really need to go.
Thank you.
Alright, congrats to both teams on an excellent tournament. The decision was a 2-1 for the negative from Berkeley Prep.